Welcome to Belief, Being, and Beyond with your host, Granddaughter Crow. Hi, everybody. Granddaughter Crow here with yet another episode of Belief, Being, and Beyond. This is a clue of what we're going to be doing today. Yes, we've got a handful of great information for you. Enough of the play on words. I got to tell you, we have Paula Victoria Dai here, and her first book in your hands, right? A Kid's Guide to Palmistry. It's hardcover, you guys, and it's so delicious. So, let me tell you a little bit about Paula Victoria. Paula Victoria is the professional palmist and author behind P is for Palmistry. I always wondered, and it's Paula, so this is great. Paula learned palmistry at a young age from her grandmother and has grown her practice through virtual readings. Yeah, you guys, we can do virtual readings, events, markets, and residencies in the Los Angeles area with over 25 years of palmistry practice and experience connecting with people through art curation, professional organizing, and her interior design studio. Paula's readings are deeply focused. So she has not only this expertise, but a lot of lived experience too. Her readings help others discover their own set of personal strengths and guide them through life transitions with ease, clarity, and confidence. Like I said, her first book is in your hands, putting the magic back in your hands, A Kid's Guide to Palmistry. It is available wherever you get your books. Of course, we love when you support local bookstores and metaphysical community bookstores. Go in there. If it's not on the shelf, just ask them. They can order it for you. So, without further ado, let's bring on Paula Victoria. Welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you so much for the beautiful reminder of how my life has brought me to you guys today. That was
Oh,
beautiful. Thank you.
absolutely. Well, one of the things first, when I saw the cover, I was just like, my inner child needs that right now. And so, of course, now you're on the show. But I saw the cover come out before the book even came out. And I'm like, Jenny, we've got to get her on the show. So, one of the beautiful things, I mean, there's a lot of different divination practices. Most, like right now, you see a lot of tarot, you see a lot of, pendulums, you see a lot of different arts and crafts, but you don't see a lot of palmistry, even though it's really old, like so old we don't even know how old,
Right.
because we've had hands, people.
Yeah, exactly.
We've had hands and curiosity for a long, long time. But what I want to do first, Paula, is to demystify a little bit about palmistry, because even people, if you've never had your palm read, you may have heard, oh, don't let them see you because they'll tell you when you're going to die because you're lifeline.
Yes.
Or they'll tell you that, this is stone and it never changes and you can't do anything about it once you hear what it's about, or that it's evil or whatever. And I'm so happy to have Paula on the show to demystify that. So, can you talk just a little bit briefly about what it actually is?
Absolutely. And that's what I'm here for too, in existence, to sort of squash any sort of fatalistic preconceptions of palmistry. I think that it's a beautiful art and people should know about it and like bring it back. Let's go. It's the time for it to shine. So palmistry is the study and the art of looking at the lines of your hands, the texture of your hands, the shape of your hands. And there's many names for it, but palmistry is the one I think that most people are familiar with. It is the study of, you can definitely look into the future. I see it as the study of who you are as a person. The way that I look at palmistry, and a lot of other people will look at palmistry, is that the left and the right means something different. The lines, the mounts of your hand. So I know if you're watching the video of this, you can see that different levels of my hand or your hand have heights and valleys. So all of that means something in palmistry and in everyone's individual study. Palmistry is a really old, as you mentioned, is a very old practice. We don't even know how long it's been around, but the first written history of palmistry was about 4,000 years ago in India and then China. So there's a little bit conflicting written data, how writing history goes. So there's a little bit of conflicting data, and there's different ways of studying it in different cultures. But there's always been this rich practice of exploring what's in the hands and using it for different modalities. So healing arts and healing practices in different cultures. In China, it was actually used as a signature of the emperor. So they would use his thumbprint to sign documents because everyone has a different thumbprint. You can't replicate it. So I always thought that was fascinating. And of course, as time went on, it came to the West, quote unquote, through different modalities. The Roma have a very strong palmistry practice and used it as they traveled, and so that's how it spread through Europe. And that I believe is a very different way of looking at the palms than I do. That's not how I personally learned, but it's a very deep and historic practice in itself. And then it became in the US at least, and I believe in England, it became sort of a celebrity favorite practice at parties. And that's how it became, this fantastical sort of exciting practice people wanted to find, at least in the way that we see it today. There's photographs at parties of celebrities getting their palm read, and so there's been this ebb and flow of a palmistry practice, but we can see even before written history that palmistry was a practice because in cave paintings, people would stamp their hands on walls, and you would find that. And we can only guess really what it was about, what it was for. But obviously, people were noticing their hands. They were using their hands, utilizing their hands to make things and to grow things. And there's a lot of energy that goes into that. It's all about the energy. So,
I love it. And so it changes. It's not written in stone, right? Could you just
right.
talk a little bit about that? Because I know that you were like, the idea that the left hand is kind of what you were born with, the roadmap, or like I like to see it, the topography of the lay of the
Yeah.
land, right?
Yes.
The little lines, and then you've got the mounds, and you've got, and then the other hand, the right hand, it changes. Could you talk just a little bit about
Yes.
that?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So the left hand, as you mentioned, in the way I practice is what you're born with. I see it as definitely like your life plan. It's what before you come into this world where you decide how you're gonna learn the lessons you're gonna learn. And then your right hand is what you have made of your life. So I like to joke that it's all the ways you decided that this is not what you felt like doing. So your right hand is what you make of your life and where you are today. So a lot of times in shorter readings, let's say I'm at a market or I'm at an event and I'm doing like a 10-15 minute reading, we're kind of just touching the surface of things. I look at the right hand because that's who I'm meeting that day. So if they have a question for me or they just want to know basics, of what I can see in a quick period of time, I'll look at the right hand. And your hands do change. They change with every decision you make. You might not see the change right away. There's things that change faster than other things on the hand. So lines, mounts, all of that. The only thing that doesn't change are your fingerprints, which is why it was used as signatures. That's why we get our fingerprints taken for things. With the lines, I give people sort of a time frame of doing birthday readings or holiday readings or solstice readings, some sort of holiday, if it's a couple's reading, anniversary readings. And I know it's a really sweet way of tracking where your relationship and where you're going individually and all of that. And so 1 year is a good period of time if you're someone that has a lot of change going on, a lot of growth going on. The soonest I've seen big changes in lines is 3 months, and that's some a dear friend that I've read a lot and was going through a lot of career transitions and ideas were coming about. So if you're going through times where there's a lot of change, your lines might change more. If you're in a period of time where stable in a sense that you're continuing the same activities and you're around the same people every day, your lines might change less. So it really depends.
I love that. And then, moreover, this is written for what age group did you have in mind when you wrote it? And keeping in mind that I am that age group, whatever you
Yes,
say, because
me
my
too.
inner child is loving this. What age group is it written for?
I love that you mentioned inner child because that's who I wrote it for. I channeled myself because I was that kid who wanted to sit in the bookstore and learn about that's how I really learned details about palmistry. So we aimed for the book to be written for 8 to 12-year-olds. But that being said, I think it's really been received well for all ages, especially adults. I feel like palmistry has become so inaccessible in learning, or it's become so I don't know why the word ethereal is coming to mind, but it's become sort of like this very heavily intuitive practice and harder to sort of grasp physically. So in writing it for my inner child and for all of our inner ch children, right? I think that the language was meant to be simplified for all ages.
I love it. And just one more point, and then I'm gonna
Yeah.
see if Jenny has any questions, because I know she's excited about the book too. What I When I was looking at the book and reading the book and looking at what you're doing, I was like, that is a prime age
Yeah.
for our intuition as children prior to us being shamed or shut down for our own intuitive gifts. So this
Right.
is giving them a tool to encourage and empower that inner child or your young ones. Pick up this book. It makes a great present. Plus, it's a heck of a lot of fun and cute and all of that. But
Thank you.
I think that it's really beautiful that you found a way to be able to share divination, curiosity, to that age group, because that age group, they're still open, right? They're still open.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to give you a thumbs up, my emperor thumbs up, Prince.
Thank you. Thank you. I will take the thumbs ups.
I
I
love it.
appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's important for people to have toolkits and to really understand where they stand and what powers they have, or how they can utilize a power that they have to do something they want to do. Right? And I always, when I do readings, people this is what's so hard about seeing things on TikTok and online. You see that things are one way, and you see that things are, again, set in stone, or you see,
Right,
oh, like there's a writer's triangle. If I don't have it, I'm not a writer. That answers my question about trying to write this book, right?
right.
But there's so many ways you can arrive to something, and there's so many ways you can use palmistry as a tool. So thank you for bringing that up, that it is a tool, and that I think 8 to 12, you're in this world, you're a little bit more grounded, but you're not yet shut off and you're not yet, so it feels like a sweet spot almost where you start to learn how to read more. You're definitely more confident in picking up more books. You can wrap your head around more concepts. And what I love about palmistry and what I love about how Alyssa, the illustrator of the book, brought to life is that kids can see themselves and you can see themselves in the book through she has characters for all of the elements, and there's illustrations showing you how to flex your hand back and all of that. So it was really brought to life for that age, but I feel like that's something that might make it easier for adults to approach seeing yourself in the characters in the book and the nature elements in the book.
I love it. I love it. So what do you want to ask her, Jenny?
Well, I wanted to share because we're sharing about the prime age group is 8 to 12. I have an 11-year-old. And so I've had the book for a while and he caught me reading it and then he took it and then he's like, I'm going to read everyone's palms. So he has read the whole family, including me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
So
a
I
mini
want you
reader.
to, yeah, I want you to know like it really is that age group because he felt confident to just take it on his own, and then he's making us flex our hands and show our hands, and he read the whole family, and he has really like picked it up very quickly because again,
Amazing.
yeah, like that age group, their neuroplasticity is off the hook. So they can learn
Mhm.
like anything. And
Yep.
so I feel like he's like halfway through the book. He's gonna probably finish it, and then he'll be like our resident palm reader.
I love that. Oh, we're bringing it back. That's beautiful. I'm so glad that it was easy to go through the book because I know at the beginning I was like, how can you use this book? There's like a whole section and I wanted it to be open for all kinds of learners, you know. Not everyone wants to go page by page. Sometimes you want to jump around, and that's totally fine. So the book was made for that. The book was made for exploring it, however, and I'm so glad that he's making his way through, page by page. It's really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, and for people that, are listening and maybe not seeing it, the book is really well illustrated and the information is chunked. And I'm a former school teacher. I, focus on neurodivergence. So I think this book is good for like adults for lots of reasons. Okay, but the number one reason is I think a lot of us learn better through these visuals and the chunking of information because I brought two examples of some classic palmistry books, How to Read Hands and Language of the Hand. And
Oh,
these books are actually really hard to learn from. Their
mm-hmm.
information's not chunked. It is in that time where people really wanted to show their, $10 words as often as possible. They wanted to show that it's like truly academic and not just, woo-woo or whatever. And then the pictures are not helpful because it's old anyway. So this book is illustrated in color. It's very easy to follow. I was learning until it got taken from me.
We need to get you another copy.
And then I will finish it when he's done, I think. But I was curious about your grandmother. So your grandmother is the one that passed this down to you, and I would love to know more about that because I loved both of my grandmothers, and they were so influential in like all of my life. And so I love that you talked about that in here. And yeah, if you could tell us a little more about that, I'd be happy to hear it.
Definitely. So I have to preface this with my grandmother was not a palm reader. That was not what she did. I grew up in a very superstitious Catholic Filipino family. And so, Jenny, I know you can relate to that a little bit with the Catholicism and all of that. And so my grandmother, we found out after she had passed away, called on this woman to our home in the Philippines more often than we thought. So she was sort of like the neighborhood witch, is how my family words it. And it's not something my family talks about a lot. Like that part of my family is like we go when we're in the Philippines, we go to church every Sunday, and we don't even talk about mystical Filipino terms or anything. Like I've learned all that on my own. So it's funny that my mom's oldest sister she described that my grandmother would call on this woman to come to for family entertainment almost, and she would do only two house calls a day. And that was the expense of her energy, and reading takes so much energy. So I was like, okay, I understand that part. And so she would come to the house and read people's fortunes. And anyway, I know that there were cards involved and palm reading involved and mediumship and everything. And it sounded like a fun family affair. And I have a big family in the Philippines. So everyone would come to the house and do this. But then no one really understood where my Lola learned palm reading. And so my aunt said, oh, she actually was at the house a little bit more than we all saw as a family. Like I think she saw her there probably for some secret guidance and maybe some love spells here and there is my speculation, with the family drama and stirring the pot. So I believe that she learned from this woman in the Philippines who I've yet to find. I'm hoping that maybe some way, somehow, someone will be like, I know exactly who this is, or I had the same experience in the same neighborhood. We've yet to find her. But with that, my grandmother learned palmistry. She was also a little bit curious with astrology and all of this, and my grandmother encouraged my intuition in ways without saying it was intuition. So one of the ways she would say is when the phone was ringing, when there were landlines and it was on the kitchen wall, she would say, okay, so who's calling us right now, Paula? And she would have me guess who is calling. And I would say like 9 out of 10 times, or like guess what number we're thinking of and things like that. And so I think part of it was games. Now that I have a daughter, and like, okay, I know that there's a lot of distraction and keeping people busy involved, but I also think she's something in me that she didn't see in some of my other cousins and nieces and nephews, where she also painted and would teach them that, but didn't really quite teach them the intuitive side of things. So she taught me palmistry in the garden, which I talk about in the book a little bit, a little summary of it. We had a big garden growing up. Being connected to nature was really always very big with my family. It's a big part of Filipino animism, traditionally, pre-colonial practice, and I think that's something that's continued onward. And we'd have had a lush rose garden. She had 27 varieties of roses in our garden. We had an apple tree and a pond with fish in it. And it wasn't a huge garden, but we crammed it all in there, and a lot of succulents. And we were constantly repotting. We were constantly looking at leaves and flowers, and I was learning about all of that. And then we were in the kitchen a lot as well, but in between the potting, when she had to rest, and my mom's her youngest by far, and so she was on the older side of being a grandmother. She would rest, and we would sit a little bit and take a break from repotting because it's hard work, and we would talk about the hand. And she would look at my hand and say, this is your lifeline, and this is the love line, and say things like, oh, it looks, maybe you'll be a doctor one day, which that's very funny. That's the hope, I think, of every Filipino grandma, that everyone is
Sure,
a
yeah, yeah.
doctor or a nurse. But like, I think she sees me now from up there and is like, thank goodness you're not. She would look at the lines and teach me those basics, and then we would talk about, textures of the hand, and things like that. So she wasn't teaching me every single detail, but it really planted the seeds of palmistry, and that's where I learned to sort of get to know people in that way. And it was a really fun way to understand people, and compare ourselves to nature again. I think that's something a lot of people have lost and are trying to find again, is that connection. So that's why in the book a lot of it is compared to, it's already elemental, but part of what I wanted to bring back in that is how being in the garden and learning about palmistry in the garden especially was really, really big for me, and helped me really grasp that concept of comparing the lines to rivers, and comparing finer lines to maybe the veins in a leaf, and the way that fire changes and expands and contracts. And so it was really beneficial in my learning. And I think it says a lot about how she thought too, outside of how she, in a time where she was told that you needed to be married and support your family, and be in the home, explore outside of that and connect to something bigger than that.
We honor your grandmother
Yeah.
here on this show. You
Thank
know what
you.
I think happened? This is just in my humble opinion. I think she went down the street to that lady, and the lady was like, that little Paula Victoria, you need to. I think that's what happened. That's my humble opinion. And I love
Yeah.
that. I love that you're like, the seeds of palmistry got planted in the garden by my grandmother. I'm like, how poetic.
I don't even think about it like that, but I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I think of it as seeds planted. I think that I do a lot of nature references and a lot of delicious food references when I talk about palmistry, but I think the garden in particular, and the way that things grow and change, is really important for kids, especially to understand the cycle of life, and how that works. So, you see it immediately. And now that we're planting our own garden, and I have my own little one, and I see how she interacts with things, it's so cool. Because when I started writing the book, we didn't even think about kids yet. And when the book came out, I already had a little one. So I was like, the timing was perfect. It was, it took a little bit longer than we thought for the book to come out, but it was the exact perfect timing in which it needed to come out. So
So all of that was in your hands, is what you're telling me.
yes, absolutely.
I love
Um,
it. I
yeah.
love it. You
If
know
you
what
are
else?
enjoying this show, you can support it by liking, subscribing, and sharing. Also, connect with us, leave a comment, Text the show option wherever you listen to podcasts, leave a review, or email us at beliefbeingbeyond@gmail.com. Also, I'm on Patreon, where a small donation goes a long way. Find this and more episodes at granddaughtercrow.com. Thank you. Now back to the show.
I
Yeah.
love it. You know what else I need to highlight about this is that you are also showing ethics. You're breaking it down to like, this is how you set sacred space, open a window, like the
Hmm.
consciousness and the understanding of set your tone and the connection between, friends and don't be angry. And you're setting up these ethics for any spiritual work
Right. Hmm.
already. And the way you do it is just so adorable because you talk about peanut butter and jelly. I mean,
Food.
so I just wanted to give you another thumbs up, two thumbs up for that,
Thank you.
because I think that that's one of the things that is vitally important prior to learning any modality, regardless of what age you are, is learn those ethics and things like that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing that. That I think in general and what I was seeing in readings, but also in the time in which I started writing the book was like pandemic time. And everyone was at home and people were trying to pick up things. And it was the start of people putting their practices really actively online, on Instagram, on TikTok, and all of that. And I think kids pick that up so quickly and they think that's what happens. Like they think that what they see is reality. And it was really important for me to have a tangible place where that knowledge was put, where kids could pick it up and see that there's more to what you're seeing. It's not about making it aesthetic. It's not about, making a complicated ritual for something. And it's something that we could learn, but I wanted it to be in an accessible place where you're learning about a specific practice that could bridge to other practices, because grounding is so important, and setting the tone for a reading is absolutely important. I think that that's what I hope is the biggest takeaway from the book. Yes, there's things that are fun for kids to do, like flexing the hand or learning about the process of energy through peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I want to make it fun and accessible, but yes, absolutely. I think that the ethics behind it is important and something that I don't think anyone wants to get lost in the process of things becoming more tech and more, in a way, more removed from nature. But I think now you can start seeing that there's a wish for more of that again, more of natural elements and things. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, what else, Jenny? What else do you
Yeah,
want?
I had I was curious,
Mhm.
that's just my nature, but I was curious why you wrote it for kids. Like, I love that it's for kids, but I'm telling everyone, no matter how old you are as a child, you could be an 80-year-old child, get
Yeah.
this book. Because
Yeah.
I have never learned palmistry before. I've tried through different things, and then this book, I was like, oh, I get it. Oh, I get it.
So yeah, I'm glad it was for kids. It was sort of a full circle story, I think. Like I'm glad that it ended up being for kids. I connected with the publisher Moondust Press on Instagram, and through a cute little like friend pickup joke in private messages, where they have a book called See Us for Coven, and it's a board
Yeah.
book for kids, and it's also very cute. You should also get that book. And it breaks down different practices and rituals in like an ABC fashion. And I didn't have the book, and I jokingly messaged them, "Oh, is P for palmistry?" Because that's my Instagram handle, and that's the very start of the business. And they were like, "Oh, actually, it's not, but I meant to reach out to you." And so we started our relationship on on Instagram, and we're messaging, and then that's where the idea of the book came about. And Andy from Moondust Press had the idea for the children's book because we had been seeing astrology for kids. They also have a wonderful book, Tarot Deck Mess, by Sarah Beck. That's tarot for kids. And there wasn't anything specifically for palmistry. There were bits and pieces in other books. There are palmistry books, but not directly for kids. And so that's where it all started. And I put together a draft and a proposal, and we continued the conversation, and then connected with Alyssa Marie, the illustrator. So all of it was words first, and I wrote it, and I wrote from a place that was very healing. I think for me, it ended up being a very healing practice where I wrote it for little Paula before the world told me, you can't do that for work. You're not going to make money doing that. You're not gonna, that's not a job, or that's not something someone finds attractive, right? And I wrote it for her. And little Paula wanted to be an author. And so I thought that was like the perfect roundabout. I wanted to be a writer. I grew up reading all the fantasy books, like Tolkien and other books I won't mention because I'm a little upset about them right now. But I read a lot. I was the kid who read books at recess, wrote stories at recess, and it was my recharge time. Instead of like playing on the playground, I wanted that time to learn and grow. And so I'm really grateful, and it ended up being for kids. And I think in coming from a place where it was written by my inner child, I would say. I think I hope that's what makes it accessible for everyone's inner child, because growing up, I don't think that it was super accessible. At least I grew up in the suburbs in Houston, in Texas, and so the extent of what I got was what it was on the Barnes and Noble shelf at my local bookstore. And I would always hope I would find something new and find something cool and sit there while, mom was shopping. And I wanted that book to be a book someone could find in that same position of, I'm curious, I want to learn more. What can I find today when I go out? Or when I'm Googling it now on the internet to find a fun book for kids' activities as a parent, right? Yeah, it's weird now that it's available everywhere and it's online. It's not really going into the bookstore as much, but I hope that you do. I hope that you go to your local bookstore and support and find a book there. But yeah, that's sort of a long-winded version of how it came to be a kid's book. It's not something that I birthed the idea of, but I was so happy to say yes and take it on. And I think it was perfect timing.
I love that. I mean, here at Belief Being and Beyond, you literally have authors interviewing authors. So we love the process of how the heartbeat of the human race, which is what I define as creators, authors, artists, how that process is because it's unique to everyone. So tonight, you guys, we are sitting down with Paula Victoria and her newest book, In Your Hands, Kids Guide to Palmistry. Check her out. P is for palmistry.com and on social media, IG and TikTok. P dot is for palmistry, right? And
Yes.
follow, because you've got a lot of things. Okay, so I want to show an exercise or like how big something is. Like, what can we take away, all the listeners, what can we take away about a little bit more about the self-knowledge or be able to fascinate our friends, at the next picnic or whatever?
Yeah. Okay, what's a fun one? Okay, something that's very simple, beginner level, you don't have to have any palmistry knowledge. Something I like to do with sitters is, especially if someone's sitting down and I can tell that they're a little bit nervous, or they've never done this before, or maybe they had a intense conversation, then they came to sit down for a reading to get them in the zone, is you can just shake your hands out like this, get all the energy flowing and moving and grooving and all of that. It gets you sort of forgetting about whatever's going on outside too, and then just hold your hands up naturally, however they show up. And so, however your thumbs are positioned is where you're feeling socially at the time. So, not to call anyone out, right? But the closer you are to your index finger, your Jupiter finger, the less social you're feeling, the more you probably want to recharge. You're kind of done talking. Yeah, I know. And then the further out, the more ready you are to party. So, because it's evening or, post lunch or whenever you're watching this, you might be like this because you're like, I need a recharge, right? And it changes the most throughout the day because it's your thumb flexibility. Sometimes people have naturally resting thumbs that go this big. Sometimes they're this big. So you can see if someone's introverted, extroverted, omniverted, however, whatever they're called now. There's all the verteds.
It's
And yeah, and you can tell by that. Um, and then another super easy beginner thing is it's in the book as well, but how flexible you are. So you can just take your hand and then turn it sideways like this, and as far as you can go back comfortably, right? Shows how flexible you are of a person, let's say with making plans. Are you someone that likes to schedule? Are you someone that likes to be on the fly with things? And so if it goes all the way back like this, you could be a little bit more yeah, it's also physically flexible, right? But then it's flexible in terms of like I like my schedule this sort of way, and it can also change the most, right? Maybe you're in a time period where you want more control. Maybe you are okay being a little more flexible and going with the flow. But if it's less flexible up like this, you might want a little bit more control in your life and the moment. And then if it's um, you know, and you should also know like where you naturally stand, right? Because everyone is more flexible than others. And then this is also give or take if you have any sort of hand or wrist injury. Please don't hurt yourself doing this. But if your hand goes back way farther, you're okay with being a little bit more flexible at the time. So I can say just from you seeing me flex my hand, I'm not a flexible person. I would like to be. I am a planner girly and I like to plan everything, and I'm learning to be flexible. So,
I
Yeah, I
love
will
that.
say my son did that test and his was like so flexible, it was over the top. And he's like the most go with the flow Gemini
oh, I
guy.
love
And
that.
so I was like, that's spot on, buddy. Like he's the most flexible out of the whole house. And his hand was literally the most flexible, most bendable. So it totally fit.
I love that. Do you know, since he's already started the book, does he know, he's read everyone, what hand type he is? Like
He
what
is an
elemental?
he's an air hand.
I
And
had a
he
feeling.
determined I was a water hand. I don't know the other two family members, but yeah, that's what he determined.
Amazing.
Mhm.
Oh, I love that. A flexible air hand. It's a lot of conversation and a
Yeah.
lot
Oh
of
my gosh. Yeah.
chatting.
Yeah.
I
I
love it.
love it. And listeners, if you want to find out what element your hand is, pick up In Your Hands by Paula Victoria. Woo woo. So, did you have any other questions that burning questions that you wanted to ask Jenny?
Yeah, so I'm curious, like you talked about people get readings like maybe yearly or things like that. I'm curious for all of our listeners and people that are interested. Like, what exactly will they learn in a reading from you? So they can just kind of know, like, I'm sure there's different options and there's probably different time lengths, but I would love for people to know, ahead of time, like, what do you get out of palmistry and what can you learn and what can be seen? Because it's very different from, like, all the other divinations. And I love that. Like, I love that it's so different because, if you get an astrology reading, that's pretty much set in the stars. It's going to change day to day, but that's very set. You get a tarot reading, that's going to change tomorrow. So I'd love to know more about palmistry.
Absolutely. So, no matter how long or short my readings are with a sitter, I tell them that my readings are all about your personal powers, what makes you you, and how you can use that to get to where you want to go. Use it as a map, as a plan, or just appreciate where you sit today and where you are today, and use it as a little ego boost. So, some of the things you can learn are transitions in life. If you're looking to change your job, start a new job, if you are single as a Pringle, as I've heard a lot this year, are you going to meet someone soon, or should you focus on yourself and your work and grow your life that way and see who comes your way? You can also learn where you are energetically. Just by simply looking at how deep the lines in your hand are that day compared to how they might usually be, because every hand type has different depth of lines, but you can check that just energy. If you ask, you can also see health in the hands. I typically don't lean towards health. I don't, put that on people, but it is like a good validation if you're going through some sort of healing or diagnosing process, and you just want some external validation of, you're not nuts, right? Like there's something going on there. So you can see all of that. I would say my favorite, I know some people love readings. I love career and passion project readings, anything like that, any sort of personal power readings where you can see what's coming next. Should I continue working at my job right now? Is it now time to launch my business? When are periods where I'm going to learn? I just got laid off. When am I going to find my next job? So anything like that, or what is something I can dip my toes in to add to my resume. So sort of like a little career counselor, palm reader. But yeah, it's always fun.
Those are like the top big three for most people who come to see any type of oracle or divination. They want to know about love and
Mhm.
romance, relationships. They want to know about career and finance, and they want to know about health and well-being. And then it also, like you were saying, shows personality types and how you might approach something. So here's a question for you. So the
Mhm.
end result is a palm reading.
Yeah.
But what other modalities, if any, do you utilize as a part of your practice for reading?
That is a really good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked that. So in a reading, I keep it to palm reading. I don't bring in cards. I don't, like maybe sometimes astrology, I'll bring in astrology just to, compare and see how that might show up in the hand. A lot of people who are Leos have very strong Jupiter fingers. So things like that, like, I'm number one, look at me. And I say that very lovingly. I'm a Leo rising, but in my personal practice to get grounded on my way to, like, let's say an event or a market, or if I have a private reading or if I have an online reading, I have a very deep ancestral practice. And so I work with my ancestors a lot, and communicate with them daily. And I know that looks different for different people. For me, something that's big, especially when I go to markets or if I have a big reading day, I like to listen to music. And a lot of times, my messaging from ancestors comes through songs, and sometimes they're hilarious. A lot of times, they're your classic Filipino karaoke music because I like to imagine them in the garden, singing karaoke at a big party. They're so loud. They're loud and they love love, so they're the ones that are prying and asking the love questions if I bring it up in a reading. And so they hang out with me in a reading, and I ask for guidance in that way. So I would say that's my biggest practice. I'm starting to get into and learn more about deity practice and connection. I have a friend, Alex, who's very knowledgeable in learning about and growing practice with Filipino gods and goddesses. And it's something that has been sort of lost, and so is coming back. So I'm dipping my toes in that, and I do a lot of dream work as well. So a lot of dream work, ancestral work. I uh, I have personal altars at home, and our garden is becoming one. And like we're outdoor, taking care of that again. And now that we moved recently, have an bigger outdoor space. We really put a lot of love and respect into that. Um, but yeah, I would say that those are other modalities.
I love that. So it looks like we're starting to get to the top of or the bottom of the hour, the top of the hour, the end, so to speak. Jenny, what other questions or thoughts do you have, so that we can make sure that we get the full scope of everything that we can to put it in this little beautiful nutshell or in your hand?
Yeah, so I liked how you were talking about ancestral work and learning more about Filipino deities. I know that the Philippines is very rich in myths and folklore. So do you have, and does that connect at all to your practice? And if so, could you talk a little bit about that?
I'm learning more about it now. I grew up with some of it. There's a lot of it's by a lot of children's songs and a lot of probably because of, myth and stories and everything passed on about fruits and vegetables. And so that's been something I've been finding joy in. There are a lot of, like aswangs are so big culturally now. I feel like you hear about aswangs and different creatures, I think. But now that I'm into it more, there's a lot of lore about how certain fruits have come to be, like how the mango came to be, or how the pineapple one has always really stuck with me. It's like a mother-daughter relationship of how the mango came to be. I mean, not the mango, the pineapple came to be. And so, yes and no. I think that it's something I'll pass on to my little one. It's something that I'll continue to learn and to learn about. And there are actually, yes, and not so much in my reading practice, but in my personal practice. And she's going to listen to this like 10 years from now and be like, Mom. But my little one is not a great sleeper. And so there are a lot of theories in Filipino practice, and I'm sure that it's, a lot of cultures where there's practices you should do if little ones can't sleep and reasons why they can't sleep. Like there are spirits that come around 6 p.m. every night, and so they're extra sensitive. So before bedtime, you should have a ritual, and there's certain things you should keep by their bed. So I have tried all of it because you get desperate after a certain point and you will try
Yeah.
anything. But I think there's some truth to it because I do believe that certain times of the day we're more susceptible to spirits and to beings. And I do believe that our little ones are not quite grounded yet. They're not quite tethered. And so they can experience these things a lot more, and more openly, not really more, but they're more open to it and more susceptible to it. So there's a lot of protective practices that have made it through colonization and have become just sort of, folk practices, I guess, is a way you can look at it. But they've made their way under the radar and still exist today. One of them's keeping garlic by the bed as protection from aswang. And also, I think I've heard like bells. We use bells a lot at home. And that was, I think, more ancestral knowledge. That was something that was given to me of using bells as a practice of clearing energy and space. And I know a lot of people do that, but we use that as a practice. And my daughter loves sound and music, so it resonates with her a lot. We have fun with it.
I love that. So when you guys go and buy this and gift it to the curious inner child or to the curious younger person, buy a bell with it because
Oh, yes.
buy
Why
Yes,
not?
buy a little bell because that's also how you can clear energy.
it
And
is.
I love that. Okay, so we love to ask a final question to everybody, all of our guests, and see how they respond. So, are you ready for the final question?
I'm ready.
Okay, Ginny, ask the final question.
Okay, totally open-ended. What do you think lies beyond?
Oh, what do I think lies beyond? I love this question. I do a lot of dream work, and with that, I've been learning there's a lot of astral work and a lot of multi dimensions that go with it. So I believe that everyone has their own world, right? In the dream world, but I believe part of that is what's beyond, right? Like that is our existence in this physical plane exists. And I think a lot of it has to do with what we dream about as well, of what's beyond. I think that's kind of where we go when we leave our bodies, when we sleep, if you leave your bodies when you sleep. So I think that there are places that we create for our own consciousness to process. And I think if you go peel the onion further and go beyond that, there are specific places where you can meet other souls, right? And there's sort of like these stations where you can meet and greet and learn and communicate. And I think that there are walls we can cross if you go even further and find new dimensions and new spaces and new versions of yourself. So very open-ended, I think, on my end as well. But that's something that I've really been diving into personally. So thank you for asking that. I think that that's just a little bit of what's beyond. There's a lot more, I think.
I love that you correlated it with dream time as well and multidimensional and the idea of stations and, being able to meet other people, agreed upon people. Oh,
Yeah, it's
I
something my daughter has introduced to me actually in dreaming because I've been trying to meet her and see what this is all about, the sleeping situation. So, kids are so gifted,
Yes.
and connected. So, yes. Yeah.
I I love that. Oh my goodness. Paula Victoria Dai. In P is for palmistry, follow, also pick up your copy in your hands. It is an empowering book. It also encourages self-knowledge, self-exploration, as well as connecting with other people in a very graceful, ethical way, getting to know everybody. So thank you so much, Paula. Of course, Jenny. Everybody loves Jenny on the
You.
show. And listener, we love you. And we will see you on the flippity flip.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Belief, Being, and Beyond. Please subscribe and share with whomever would enjoy this podcast. And please leave us a review. We really, really appreciate that. For more about Granddaughter Crow, granddaughtercrow.com. There you can learn about her classes, sessions, and all of her books. And for more about Ginny C. Bell, please visit jennycbell.com, where you can learn about her books, her classes, and Our Coven community. Thank you so much for listening.